And we are live. Hello, folks. Good Friday night. My name's Nick Tockert, and this is the Historical Fencing Guild. This is the live stream where we talk about all things related to knives and swords. Hello, Cindy Kep. You're one of my favorite people, and I'll be mentioning you in just 1 second. The Historical Fencing Guild is brought to you by The Simple Sword, available on Amazon. If you want to learn the simplest, fastest way to kill your friends, to use the past to power your future, buy The Simple Sword through Amazon. It's by me. Now, Simple Sword. The Historical Fencing Guild is also brought to you by the Big Stompy Robots line of games, which the sign has now fallen out of reach. That is fine. We're going to roll with it tonight. Oh, no, here it is. Big Stompy Robots line of games, because blowing things up at the dinner table should be fun and cheap. All right. It's also brought to you by my patrons, those being Steve Augosto, Cindy Kep, Brian K. Morris, and Steve Clausen. Oh, sorry, no, Steve Clausen is one of my corporate supporters. Stef Mari is one of my patrons. My wires just crossed, but you guys know that. We got a lot to talk about tonight. I'm really kind of excited. I've been doing some research. Hey, fun and cheap is great. We got 5 people, 3 likes. Life is going really good. Okay. Since we have a few people who may be new, don't be afraid. Don't hesitate to hit me up in the comments. I love talking to you guys, and anything I do is eminently interruptible. I'm already nicely caffeinated, so let's go. What's in the news tonight? Well, last week, I believe, we were talking about these guys, A Tale of Two Knives, being that these are my current favorite dagger trainers. This is based on the CRKT FE9. It's a very aggressive grip, single action. This trainer still can be found for $14.99, but it is actually discontinued. The knife it's based on was running as high as $279. I'm sorry, I found it on sale for $279 in some places. So it's a very expensive knife. Very aggressive grip, great knife. I would love to see CRKT bring this back and make one of these with about a double length blade. So that would make it, oh no, a CR18, yeah, let's see, that's 17. So yeah, let's just make it an FE20 would make me very happy. Give me a 20 or 22-inch blade on one of these, and I would dance a jig. It doesn't exist, but that's not going to stop me from hounding CRKT. And as you can see, there's their logo. Now, this is interesting. This, folks, is actually more interesting tonight, because this is, they call it in some cases, the Black Bear rubber training knife. And it is not rubber, it is polypropylene. Very, very nice knife. It's got what's called the subhilt. This allows you to get a keyhole grip without a botherment of a lot of guard. This is a very, very nice knife. Now, as this is one of my favorite trainers ever, and even works with the padding of my rather substantial braces, and yes, my brace is wearing a brace. I was doing some art, so we get to deal with that. It regularly goes on sale for $11.99, but of all places, I found it on Walmart.com for $7.90. So I can see no reason why anybody running a group looking to have a quality fixed edge knife trainer with this lovely subhilt, which really, for those of us who like a keyhole grip or really are worried about hand strength and slipping out, guys, I talk about adaptive training, adaptive gear. That's what we're about. This knife is really handy. It's a little narrow. See, one of the problems with the FE9 is the cross section. This is very aggressive. Guys with large fingers tend to like this. Guys with small fingers are okay with it. The real small don't like it at all. But this one is big enough for large hands, but comfortable enough for small hands. And it's pH balanced for everyone. So I'm really, really fond of this. Now, a little bird told me one of my beloved supporters is actually sending me a live steel one. And I am eternally grateful. But I will then be doing a side-by-side review because I'm a huge proponent of train with what you have. And guys, I was scouring the internet trying to find deals that I could talk to you about because that's part of my job. I want to be useful. Now, let me look at I take notes. God help me, they're crumbly notes. But we do have some knife news. We have a kind of interesting bit of knife news. One, it looks like CRKT at some point discontinued all their trainers. Now that really saddens me because I think there's very few things more logical than pairing a training knife with the actual steel knife you carry. I am definitely a minimalist fanboy. I have 3 or 4, mostly in I have 2 drop points, one of these, and some knockoffs. While I don't like the paint job because I wear the paint jobs off, these are still my favorite everyday carry knife. In that I literally put on my glasses, put on my knife, put on my braces, and then go to town. Actually, no, I sleep in my braces, so never mind. But they don't make a trainer. Now, I'm going to start a one-man crusade to get somebody to make some decent neck knife trainers because I would love to be able to work with the groups when I'm doing self-defense nights and we're doing practical awareness nights to have some brightly colored, probably orange, if I'm waving a magic wand, minimalist style neck knife trainers. So I can kind of try to start an arms race on this one because I've been scouring and no one is making a decent neck knife trainer. Cold Steel does make some plastic neck knives. Cool Hands makes some really cool carbon fiber, but those are edged and they have obviously you can't safely train with them any safer than you could with a real knife. So I'm really looking to see who's going to listen. And it seems like the American polypropylene knife companies are really just kind of dwindling. Like maybe it fell out of fashion. Meanwhile, HEMA was growing before the COVID hit everybody, which I'm not supposed to say because of monetization. But you guys know I'm not getting monetized. So you win the arms race. Woohoo! Yeah. In more ways than one, Steve. But so I've been looking like what can we get that's low cost for people because honestly I'm expecting the world to tentatively look like it will open up. I'm not sure I can win with an arms race. With an arm. Depends whose arms you're using there, Cindy. But go. Cindy makes the best road stop. Yeah, a little road stop jokes where like the pun just crumples me and I'm laughing and my train of thought just derails, sending ideas scattering across the field as someone cries, "Oh, the humanity!" That's huge manatee. I know what I'm about. Huge manatee. Okay. Steve says aluminum trainers are making a resurgence. Now, aluminum trainers are fascinating things in that they're very believable to the point that they can be a touch dangerous for some of the more aggressive students. Ironically, though, as Steve will attest, there are a lot of people in personal defense, bodyguard type positions, who are rather fond of training karambits, especially because they're blunted. You feel the impact, and you can use pain and leverage to manipulate somebody better than the edged weapons because oftentimes they're so sharp they'll go right in. And many times, if you read the police reports on stabbings, on knife fights, people don't know they've been stabbed until the adrenaline drops out afterwards. It's a fascinating testament to the to the stubbornness, to the power of the human intellect and the human body to shut down what's going on in a fight or flight situation. I hit the ground running tonight, folks. I'm gonna burn through all my research in the first half hour, and you know what? That's okay, because we're going, and that's what we're about. So I was looking because, like I said, there is a shift in the training weapon community, and it's really interesting to see. In that several new companies, and I talked about them, I believe, last week. Let me see if my notes are here. No, these are not my notes. These are the other notes I was looking for. A compliance tool. Yes, Steve Clausen says, I still carry a trainer as a compliance tool. That would be the term I was looking for. And it's a wonderfully dastardly little term, isn't it? A compliance tool. Artful. This is something that hurts people till they stop doing whatever they're supposed to do, which is better than actually heavily injuring them, I would think. Forgive me, my glasses are atrocious. It looks like I'm looking through the 4th of July's cordite cloud. And if you've never had a 4th of July that has a cordite cloud, you've never had a 4th of July, in my opinion. But, much better. Now I can see your notes, all the better. Like I said, I've been looking to see if anything new has been on the market, and aside from some companies popping up, and it looks like it may be the same core company, and that's the one that makes makes a number of the Chinese and Taiwanese made trainers like this. A lot of these are coming out, and they're staying a lot of times around that $30 line. Now, that being said, the more expensive stuff is still being made by Black Fencer, but I really haven't seen anything new or noteworthy. They've got a couple variant rapiers. That's Tuesday in Texas. Absolutely. There a couple variant rapiers, a couple variant other weapons, but nothing really organic and nothing that jumped out and said, yeah. After the big Meyer rapier, because I don't know how you say the double P rapier review, I'm still waiting to see what Christian comes out for Purple Heart Armory. But one thing we have to talk about, and that's why, in part, I've been looking. Where did my trainers go? Oh, here they are. Guys, I'm going to put this guy down because even though I absolutely love it, it's discontinued, so I need to breathe. But guys like this, is you can train with a relatively short weapon like this very easily, upwards in length to something like this, and not necessarily take out your ceiling fans, which, as Carl Witzman will love to remind you, I did with a Warsight. But it didn't break the SI or the ceiling fan. So I'm calling that a win on both counts. That being said, Purple Heart Armory is doing some group bonuses, and I like to see this, and I'd like to see more companies who are putting these things out do this, where they put out a bulk discount, because for somebody who's going to be training people, we often have, whenever I look at a trainer, so I look at this, and I could get this guy at $790. My brain adds a 0, because if I fall in love with this, which I suspect I will, and I want to train with this, which I definitely will, if I want other people, I think in terms of getting 10 of them, because I'm still looking for that sort of the golden gear. That's the right now I have the Cold Steel Buckler, the Cold Steel Axe, the Trench Hawk Trainer, and the Cold Steel Parry Dagger, which are all over there. But you guys have seen them. I'm still looking up for a sword, preferably by them, at even this amount. So again, if they would take this and double the blade, I'd be done. I could buy 10 of, buy a bunch of them, and be like, guys, there we go. I'm still chasing that dream product. And it gets interesting that I mentioned Cold Steel, because about a month ago, maybe longer, Cold Steel was bought out. And we're not, I mean, this is very, very interesting in the sword and knife news, because we don't know if they're going to stay the course they have, or if there's going to be a tremendous drop in the quality, because Cold Steel is kind of known for being a bit less expensive than most high-end knives, and most of their stuff is just grotesquely over-engineered. And, with the exception of some of their knife trainers, which have enough flexibility to be safe, a lot of their sword trainers, their bucklers, are rigid tanks, and that's beautiful. They still haven't made that light sword yet. And it kind of saddens me because there's money to be made there. Still, if you're going right now, if you're going to buy trainers, I really would say look at Purple Heart Armory. And again, I am not getting any money from them. If they want to give me money, if they want to send me gear or seconds, I would take anything. I'm easy. But let's see what we got coming down the background lines. It's the time of day where I get side questions. Let's see. And oof. Okay. Yes, Steve found the CRKT FE9 fixed blade tactical knife. The problem is it's $279. Okay, that's $25 short of my first car. It's beautiful, but that's a bit expensive by my standards. And then it would be like, good God, y'all. But I will say there is a special status to this particular knife because I designed a knife for an RPG character of mine, and this matches exactly the knife I designed without ever seeing it. So there's some beauty there. But yes, that would leave a mark. That's what you call money that makes... No. That's insane. That's okay. Anyway. See, the problem with, if you're looking at that, that's, freedom dispenser money. Well, look at that. I actually, I am such a skinflint. I actually flushed at that amount of money, folks. That's kind of funny. But, so we'll talk. I'm going to put this down. Okay. We got to talk. Let me make sure. We don't know what Cold Steel is doing, but I want you guys to kind of take homework. Think of what you want from weapon suppliers, from gear suppliers, and write them, okay? Be sure to write a letter to them via your emails or whatever and say, hey, I like this knife that's discontinued. Cold Steel's really big about that right now. I want trainers. Now, me, I rattle cages. I constantly email different companies like, hey, what's coming down the line? Give me some info. Because really, I've yet to find a source for the trainers. Now, you could go to Blade HQ and get all the info you want about the actual knives. But for people who want to go out and do HEMA, they want to do, STA really won't use this kind of weapon, but they can use some of the body armor. I haven't found a source where I can go, bam, and get news on these. So that means there isn't one, because I've been dedicated. If there is, hit me up. I'd love to check out what they're saying and what they're doing. But so what I want from you guys is think on what you want to see. Contact the people, mention the guild, because if you mention the Historical Fencing Guild enough, when I go to talk to them, maybe they'll give me a little gravitas and I can get better information. And that's what I want. I want to build a network where we can find out what's going on and lever the people. See, I have this silly idea, okay? I believe that the people with the money, right, should decide what is offered to them and roughly the price range. That's kind of how the market is supposed to work. And right now, I'm seeing a lot of things where it's very hard to find gear and equipment that does what I want it to do, which is low cost, entry level HEMA and practical training. And that's kind of what we're about here, I think. I don't teach you guys, I would be teaching you guys with Stabby, my favorite knife trainer, if you guys didn't like talking about how to use a kitchen knife to defend yourself. And it's not happy, but we live in an era where that kind of knowledge can be very, very useful. And no, I'm not an end-all be-all, but I'm a great source, and I'm a great start, and that's all I'm asking to be. The other thing is I get people who, okay, I like so-and-so. What do I have to learn to fight like so-and-so? It's great for movies, Like Aragorn, sorry. You could look at the way he fights and go, okay, I see a lot of Meyer in there, a lot of Richard Anderson's just training. I can start to point people in directions. I'm more of a one-handed guy. It's just where I live. But you can look at a style and go, I don't know what that is. If I don't know it, I can research it real fast. I have some books. I have some things, and we can bring forward. The other thing is, and I'm so happy to do this. So somebody like Cindy Kemp messages me, and they say, hey, I'm doing a fight scene. I want this versus this. What would work? I love doing that. And what's even better is I love when I can do this in a format like this, where I can say, hey, I heard about this. We're doing something like this. Obviously, that doesn't give spoilers, but we can work towards what we need. Now, for example, since I'm having trouble training, I'm finding the gear I want. I'm not the only one. There are a lot of Etsy style shops popping up talking about training knives and training swords and replicas. Now, some of them are obscenely expensive, and some of them aren't that bad. But what's obscenely expensive is, again, numbers like I'm talking about, multi-$100. But for some of us, it's actually worth it. I saw a replica actually of the sword from Berserk, just this giant Buster sword looking thing, at a Poly. I would love to see how one of those swing. But and that was some stuff done by, I wrote the guy's name. Vulpes Training on Etsy is doing some new knives. But I've also been looking up. Remember, one of the great secrets is if you're not doing injection molding, okay, and I'm going to use this because I can show you real carefully. If you look, there's a very fine line that runs, let me get the camera, there we go, right here, okay? That line is called a mold line. And what that means is this knife was made, I'm not sure where the actual injection point was, by two plates shaped like this, squished together and then filled with molten plastic. And when they pop them out, you have a 3D thing in molding. Ooh, I got a recommendation. So, and that's why I keep my messenger on while I do these. Oh, okay. There's some pretty stuff by this company. They look wooden. They are wooden, I believe. Neat hair sword. Oh, are those hairpiece swords? Okay. Let me look at these. Well, while this is popping up so I can look. John, just the person I wanted to see. Because I'm going to need, we're joined by John Miner. He's one of our financial supporters. There, I need to talk to you in just a second. There is a very interesting little Etsy shop called Hollow Earth Swords, and I believe they are wooden. Good wooden swords with warranty. Nothing wrong with that, because remember, where we are in nowadays, it's probably a good idea to do something to make sure your gear looks as inoffensive as possible, lest there be a conflict. And wooden gear, while it may not last as long as some stuff, is a good start. Now, I've been looking up HDPE costs, polypropylene sheet costs, and basically, if these trainers, trainers like this I showed, injection molded. Trainers like my whites that I have made, which are on ground, these guys are simply stock reduction. I suspect, and I'm about certain, that's the same method used by Purple Heart Armory for their basic trainers. They have a material, and I'm still trying to figure out the exact nature of this material, though I do love it. And he cuts it out and rounds it off. He probably uses some type of CNC machine. Now, if you have a CNC machine at home, by all means, much more than... Yes, John. Okay, cool. Much more than an athletic supporter, says John, and yes, you are. Although you've covered mine a couple times. But if you're... you get a material, and we're looking at roughly... I brought my faithful tape measure, which as a gamer, one should always have. I'm betting it's half an inch. Yep. These guys are half an inch thick. My gear, I believe, is 3/8. Real quick, line that up just to double check. Yep, 3/8. Now it's between a quarter and 3/8. It was probably in metric. I don't think in metric. I know it's a scientifically superior system, but it's not there. Now, I do that by simply putting the pattern and cutting it out, and then using a sander or a file or a heat gun to smooth it out. What does that mean? That means if you guys have a weapon, let's grab something really silly. Let's say, this is my Lord Sword. Absolutely adore it. Not considered, high end. It's just the sword and I have history. I would make the crossguard thicker because it's not brass, or you could actually do it as a two-piecer and slide it up and build up the handle. But you could feasibly trace this guy out in HDPE or polypropylene and then have a trainer that matches what you're carrying. That's what I want to see if the companies won't produce what we want and need. There's the whole... Now, I'm not trying to pirate stuff. What I mean is, as long as something like this by Cold Steel is put out at a reasonable price, and getting it for $7.90 is a reasonable price. You know what, John? It's not that bad. It really does. If you're doing stock reduction, I find it not that bad. They sand really nice. The plastics just work. I mean, like I said, this was actually made of scrap from the swords, which are currently out of reach. But depending on how finished you want it, especially if it's just a knock around for practice, you can just smooth sand it, use a fairly fine file, hit it with a heat gun, because these have a low melting point, and have something that works fairly well, surprisingly cheap, especially if you get a couple people to put in and you make multiple knives and pieces. Remembering, guys, whenever you're making something like this, I recommend getting poster board and making a pattern so that you can then position it to maximize the use of the material. But you can do that. Okay, that's what I thought. Okay, but John, I've been looking for something, and I'm running into a problem. As tiny as my hands are next to yours, they are so wide that they are too wide for the gloves that are long enough for them, and too short for the ones that are wide enough for them. So I may want to talk to you about finding out roughly suggestions or cost for a very light Kydex or HDPE clamshell that I could wear over my braces come summer. So it's not something that needs to be discussed right now, but suggestions, advice, just so I can see what I can do. Now, normally I would recommend steel. If you're going clamshells, it's always a better idea to go steel or aluminum. But for me, weight is going to be such an issue because it's not about physical muscle strength. It's about convincing the nerves to do the job, in my case. And see, the guys, I have a 4x4, 1/4 inch. Well, let's talk about what John's referencing. John's referencing, oh wait, this thing of beauty. Now see, this is beautiful stuff. It's actually very flexy forgiving, so it would be great for armor because once it's shaped, especially if it's dished or as a guard, this stuff is amazing because it has that flex, so it's going to deform slightly and bounce back instead of break. So yeah, I mean, something like that would be just ridiculously high quality. We'll have to talk, but that's what we're talking about, actually. Yeah, and even using something like this to make knife or sword trainers. We live in an era where the gear, it comes, it goes. I will always, 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 always support an American company, and I will always, always, always support a smaller one. That's who I am. And I would love to see Swakhammer Metals especially make a really devout set, a really devout, interesting choice of words, but it works, of like HTPE or poly trainers. Because if you look around, they're on the market, but the markup for them is rather ridiculous. There's a thing out there, it's called, Kydex would work well, can be formed easier than metal using the same patterns as metal would. That's pretty much what I would do, because again, we're adapting and we're figuring things out. And as John slips over and starts doing more stuff with Swakhammer Metals, and I hate to go away from the metal part of Swakhammer Metals, but I think your expertise and the fact that you're not going to give the sword tax, the cool tax, like, realistically, this is not an expensive amount of polypropylene, okay? It really isn't. So you look at the cost of the materials and the cost of production. $50 seems high, and that's low for swords. So I would really like to see somebody like Purple Heart Armory is doing that to a good extent, of largely undercutting folks. But they are a Texas company, and a local company could be neat. I love that. I love supporting competition. But I'd like to see what you can do on that front, John. And I'm suggesting it because people come to me and they're like, Nick, how do I get started? Well, first thing you do is buy my book. Shameless plug. Second thing you do is you get an SSO, being a sword simulating object, and you figure out what you want to fight. But we're at this point kind of a flux. A lot of people took 2020 as a panic. Shops shut down. big businesses tanked. But you know what? I'm seeing a lot of small businesses of varying fields who are willing to take it, and a little bit of desperation sometimes in the mix breeds creativity. And folks are starting to build new gear. They're starting to do. Oh, I've got the hiccups. 1 second. Where's my beverage? They're starting to easy. Bill, they're starting to take advantage of the opportunity of time off because we had a lockdown. Our numbers are high. We're barreling towards a vaccine, so we may or may not have another one. But if we do, we know going into it now, even if it's a couple weeks or whatever's going on, we know how to adjust. And the people right now in the last few weeks and the last year who've been working their butt off behind the scenes are going to prosper. And that definitely, any martial artist, anyone who's SCA, who's HEMA, who's AmpGuard, Dago here, Canarak, any of them, heck, the Star Wars guys, anybody who is taking either that time or taking the time from now till the world opens back up and we've all got our no more bug shots, and training is going to move forward. And that's what I want to really, really promote. And that's something I want to build on this week. I want to talk and discuss, because I know John's still active in a lot of groups. I don't know how many people he has following him in the SCA, but I know he has a lot of ties to Whitewaters, to Victor, I don't know how many ties he has to Grey Hope, but during this period when we can't meet is a great time for everyone to fix their gear, to fix their basics, to just kind of pull back in. And this is a wonderful time for newbies to figure out what they'll come into, what we do. That's sword fighting, that's Western martial arts, Eastern martial arts, I don't care. But they come into it with I want to do that, but I don't know what. Now is the time for research. Now is the time to hop online, to buy books, to read, to share ideas, Zoom, to drill and get in shape to fight. I'm trying to get in shape to live, to function beyond some of my newer issues. And it is a challenge. But I want the me that hits, say, in August. For a while, I was toying with, I want to hit 40, the healthiest I've been. You see those, I feel better at 40 than I did in my 20s videos. And I'm not ever going to be that guy. Well, obviously. In my 20s, my hands did things. But I want to hit when I can say, hey guys, we're open for practice. I can call people like Trelane and Stef Mari and John if he's up. I can reach out to folks I haven't seen in a long time. Steve, if he's in the air, be like, come to me, let us fight and eat and have fire and tell stories and move past the dark days that they clouded us all. When that arrives, I want to hit that as functional as possible. And yeah, I may be standing with a crutch, but that's better than rolling in a chair. And if I'm rolling in a chair, it's better than dead. And it sounds, Nick, you're setting your bar low. Yes, because you know what happens? If you set that bar low and you set the next bar just a little higher, you get a thing called a stairway. And you just build up slowly and you get to where you need to be. I've done it before in different ways. I will do it again. And so will you folks, because that's what we need. Okay? One thing that has to come down is a rejuvenation of our spirit, of our motivation, of the light we got, okay? The current events are left over from 2020. Absolutely. Thank you. Cindy Kep says nothing wrong with being realistic. You can do it. Exactly. And that's what I'm saying. I am a big proponent, guys, and I got some holy rolling tonight, and I'm okay with that. I'm feeling that bit of warmth in the soul here. Okay, you set a reasonable goal and you meet that goal, okay? And you set and you work towards it, and that's okay. It's not the same as everybody else. It's called victory conditions. What is winning for me? I know some people that winning for is having a multi-million-dollar income, dominance in the world, being famous and well-known. And those dudes are awesome. A couple of them are some of my best friends. And I got my son. I've worked with special needs far more debilitated than my son, where winning for them is making it through the day without a behavioral outburst or a loss of bodily control. I have a perspective that most people, I think, are afraid to face. Their spectrum of loss and success is so narrow. And that's not what I'm about. Okay, because part of it is you got to open that up. You have to see honestly where you are on sort of an absolute value of where you want to be and work towards what matters to you. And guess what? If you don't know, if you're not sure what you want, where you want to go, how you want to get there, that's okay too. Because as soon as you start asking those questions, you move forward in that journey. And as soon as you start moving forward in that journey, everything starts to narrow, because once you know what you don't want, you can say, hey, I want that. And that, in the field of Western martial arts especially, it becomes, what kind of weapon do I want to work with? What kind of style? And sometimes it's like, I want to know them all. I know some crazy guy who wanted to be able to handle any weapon he got his furry little hands on and make them go. And maybe not make them go right, maybe not make them go in a specific style, but make them go. And 20 years later, even though I walk like Hercule Poirot, and I have braces on my hands, I can still make most of these things that are sharp and pointy go. If I could do it, okay? If my gimpy, round, nervous, malfunctioning self can do it, anybody can do something. And that's what we're about doing. And we've got so much negativity pounding us these days. But we don't need. Okay, you can go. It sucks, but I'm moving on. Because, right now, there's a whole world of stuff going on we can't control. Okay, it's scary out there. Whatever your politics, however you feel, I'm not talking about that because that's not what this channel's about. But I can say just about everyone is unhappy on one spectrum or another. And if that's what's going on, fine. Find something you can make better and do it. So, there are things you can use. There are several indoor trainers you can use. If you want to learn to fight and you're worried about taking out the walls because you want to fight greatsword, Purple Heart Armory makes some. I've seen some designs floating around where basically you just make a hilt that you like, enough blade to hold. Cindy just said, I can even hit a target on purpose now. Right-handed, left-handed? No. Cindy, that's huge. Do you know how? Oh, that puts you light years beyond so many people. I'm so proud. I'm genuinely serious. You set up a target. It takes slow, repetitive. Okay. Accuracy is a precision-based game. Precision is practice, focus, and analysis. That means I'm going to do something. I want consistently. I would rather miss consistently than hit randomly, because if I am missing consistently something, I can say, oh, I am off to the left. I'm off to the right. I'm off to the left. I'm gonna put. Now, Steve says stop teacupping, Nick, and he's making fun of my firearms things. But he forgets in some of the cases I couldn't reach any decent support, and I'm an old revolver guy, so it's hard to not teacup a revolver without getting your fingertips burned. But yes, give me a second. Okay. This is not a real firearm, obviously. It is plastic. Don't get cranky with me, YouTube. I have no hope of shooting. This is the best I can do right now. This is not teacupping. See, I'm being better. But yeah, and that's what happened. Steve took me to the range. It'd been a long time since I fired anything. I had not fired a modern semi-automatic, auto loader. That's a regular gun, by the way. Here, semi-automatic. And the news makes it sound scary. That's a regular gun. But now I'm a light rifle iron sight guy all day. I'm left eye dominant, and that's my bad eye, but I don't care. I can see movement real well. But we worked through it, and I went from a reasonable paper plate to half a paper plate. From half a paper plate to a quarter paper plate. I was pulling the quarter paper plate into groupings reasonable, and the shaking in my hand got too much because now I know I have carpal tunnel and nerves, and I was way overdoing it. But that's what it takes. Now, I used to shoot air rifles a lot, and what I could with a scope, I could pit the ace on a playing card at about 50 yards, which is not bad with a pump air rifle. I got that way, and I had my dad and some others. Where did you learn to shoot? Well, my dad originally taught me to shoot rifle, and I had a bottle of 10,000 BBs, big old bottle. And you know what happened when I got down to the empty bottle of BBs? I was a lot better than I was when I started. Now, I'm not saying practice alone makes perfect, because that's a misnomer. Practice makes consistent, okay? If you do something enough, you will do it the same way every time. But if you do it and you're doing it the same way and you look and you're getting the same results, and then you start to tailor that a notch, make a subtle adjustment, see if that works, get consistent at the subtle adjustment, adjust again. Sidney Kep says, I went to the range and borrowed my pal's revolver, consistently hit low and left, but never figured out why. It was weird. I started aiming up and right, not fabulous, but better. Now, with something like that, yeah, you may have to. That may be the adjustment. But then you can also look to somebody like Steve, who I have absolute faith could correct your posture. I'd wager. Let me see. Low. Okay, low and to the left. Huh. I'm thinking, well, it was a cant, and it has to do with the grip. I have a sheet somewhere. Let me see. It's not here, is it? No. Okay. I have a sheet that can give you some stuff. Steve can fix that. John says 7.62 sniper at 1,800 yards and a 50-cent piece times 8. Right. John can shoot. Steve can shoot. I really want to put these two guys together. It would be really interesting to see what happened if I put these two guys together. Let me check the side comms, folks. And we'll see what came in. That's what I thought. 1 second, one part. It's trigger placement. That's what I was thinking. Like I said, I have a chart. Cindy, if you can message Steve and talk about it, he probably honestly can fix that with you. And if you want to practice, get yourself a little airsoft pistol and set up a catch. They're wonderful if you get a Springer, which means it's going to be underpowered. It will have a very, very short effective range, which is perfect. Or even a Nerf gun. To this day, if they ever made a firearm on the exact sight and grip angle as an old Nintendo Zapper, I would probably buy it, because Lord knows that I spent a lot of hours behind that thing. But the first one isn't clicking. That's fascinating. And see, if I can get anybody help with something, that's what I want to do. That's what the guild is about. Now, we are not a firearms organization, but there's enough overlap. We can get that fixed. A lot of people have said, yeah, both these two can just. I'm not a shooter. I can make some guns run. But these guys are definitely shooters. Now, I've had people say, "Wait, Nick, you're a knife and sword guy. How can you like guns?" Because apparently there's a difference. Or, aside from the answer to every sword problem is get a gun. I get a lot of those comments I just delete them. The whole, well, why would learn a sword because I can have a gun? One, most people who talk about that haven't learned it. And two, up close, having knife training is a handy, handy thing. I am a geek who collects skills. And that's what I'm about. So, understanding how knives work. And remember, I'm at heart a rapierist. Now, I'm saying that carefully. Whoa! I'm saying that carefully. There was a spider on my my computer screen. It isn't anymore. Okay, John saying 12 gauge broadsword Florentine is actually a misquote. It was quoted as 12 gauge greatsword Florentine from a book that, without tremendous edits, will never see the light of day. But if there is interest, heaven help me, I will do the tremendous edits to try to make my first novel actually see the light of day. It was written when I was fairly young in college, and it needs a lot of work. But maybe, John, maybe. That being said, you have to realize that the swords I like best are the ones that happen in periods where heavy armor isn't popular. But, okay, wow, I swear I can smudge glasses like it's nobody's business. Okay. Early Celtic leaf blades are gorgeous. Some of the short Bronze era weapons, the Kopish, some of the early scimitars, simple, elegant tools. Then there's a period of the Middle Ages where you have to combat armor, heavy plate, and what happened is the weapons had to get heavier and very specialized for that purpose. And then you get things like this guy for poking through, and it becomes much more strength game than what I'm about. Then somebody realized, hey, this Chinese firework can make a better, we can make a cannon much smaller and we can do some damage. You get the handguns. And suddenly, plate armor was more heavy than it was valued. And it went away. And then you get the upsurgence of the rapier and the saber. Elegant, functional weapons. You also get the dusseks really being a popular thing as peasant swords. You know I love me some peasant swords. There's a German farmer's knife. I cannot remember what it is called, but it was made by, there's a Purple Heart Armory version, because of course there is. It's an obscure knife I like. Book. I'm going to see if I can get it to come up while I talk to you guys. But, and hop off that so it doesn't drain my, there we go. Cool. Oh, I got a message from the boss. Well, from John Miner on my other line. Yes, I did see it. Okay. John sent me an impressive knife collection, most of which I recognize. One or two I do not. Now, my current knife collection is buried. I need to pull it up and check on it for the majority of my more colorful knives, and some are missing post the bad old days. But yes, beautiful knives, John. Qualify as being short swords. Apparently, my phone is not messaging me when I get texts. That's good to know. But boop, 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 boop. What happened there? There we go. I want to see if I can cross-reference something. Nope. We'll put this here. Let's see if I can get that to search, because it's a very specific. No, none of those are showing up. Anyway, basically it's about yay long, slender, curved with a bit of dongle off the side. Really nice knife. I love it. Of course I do. It would pair with a dussek, which is on my bucket list to make. Now I may have to make a alternate style power hammer. Oh, I know that isn't all that was just what's in reach, John. It's your knife collection is fairly legendary, but I don't like necessarily showing off what other people have. Sorry, momentum broke for a while. We're actually getting close to the hour break, so I want to take a second to thank Cindy Kep, Steve Augosto, Brian K. Morris, and Stephanie Marie, who are all my patrons. They help me keep the lights on, and I will be seeking their addresses to, in the fairly near future, hook them up with something special. Well, thanks Steve Clausen and John Miner, who are both my direct sponsors, essentially. And I will put a shout out to Luke Stone of Luke Stone Studios / Terraform Comics, who helps pay my bills and something big that will be coming out. And I will plug that in the commercial period during this. The Historical Fencing Guild is brought to you by the Simple Sword. All right, we've cracked the hour line. I've done my necessary plugs. What else is up? I wanted to talk about something because getting back on the product, there's been a few people have contacted me asking about butterfly knives. Butterfly knives are something I find fascinating because it's a paired two-weapon style. The earliest butterfly knives actually are quite sharp and very much like almost triangular cutlasses. They're very interesting weapons. Later, you'll find that they evolve into the more almost butter knife shaped, very shallow, blunt curved guarded knives you see today. There are a couple companies putting them out of various costs, including our boys at Purple Heart Armory are putting them out at $22.95 a piece. Now, several of the polypropylene trainers are up there. And they are, oops. Now this is interesting because this is not meant to be confused with the balisong trainer. Okay? So that's where we run into an issue. A balisong is the folding butterfly knife, which is a really neat, which is one of the most neat but dangerous fidget spinners ever evolved. A buddy of mine by the name of Mario was rather fond of them. You wouldn't think you could throw them, but somehow he made it work. To this day, I can't figure out how he got it to work and not come flopping on impact. But that was freshman year, and freshman year was an interesting place for me. But the Chinese butterfly knives. That being said, Purple Heart is selling them, so they're $46 a pair. Now, you can go on Martial Arts Mart and get DVDs for training methods of these, because people were looking for double sword. What was it? I can't remember who sent it to me, but they were asking for dual sword training videos, and they're actually fairly hard to find. There are a couple styles. There's some Thai styles. Now, a fascinating sword style is called Krabi Krabong, and it's a Thai double sword, very long, very katana-like profiles. But each one, they are interesting, and you're going to find that in a family of scream-a-stick kind of motions. I find it's not something I do, but it is something I find interesting. So I said I would look into and bring up, and I wanted to do that, and of course my link isn't working, but that's okay, because that's what we call live TV. There we go. And I'm seeing the going price for sets seems to be around $40. Although right now they're calling them Wing Chun swords. There's a set on Amazon for $32, which means it's $17 a piece. And checking the markings, yes, it's by the brand claims to be Tao. But if I can see the maker's mark like I expect it to be, I'm pretty sure it's the same guys who made these. It's an interesting, if you want a very double fluid hacky hack slice style, it's something you might like. The other thing is they're relatively short. You're looking at 14-inch roughly blades. I want to say that's what they were saying they are. Come on. 17, so okay, 18 inches a piece, so deduct for a grit. You're looking at roughly 13, 14 inches. This is a good length for getting that very fluid set of looping movements. Again, it's not my style, but it is fascinating. There's also a lot of the John says Shanahi trainers are 18 each. Oh, where, John? Just so I know. But I would rather have you pay a few extra bucks and get it from Purple Heart, because they're quality. And again, we're supporting an American company. I'm a little funny about that. The other thing I saw, I was asked expressly for, no, I will not watch another show while I am doing my show, thank you very much, for guitar trainers, which are punch daggers with the support bars. Indian guitar, and they're running $45.95, but sold as a pair by Purple Heart. Now, I have really mixed feelings about these, okay? Because one, I've never been the biggest fan, in that they have these sidebars, but there's no attachment. Integrating bracing into them might be interesting. Now, this is me in the past, and calibration becomes really an issue because a punch is designed to line up everything, your full body, step into it. So, calibrating a punch light with something like that could be really challenging. That being said, I may look into a set just because it's something that can work even if my wrists aren't right. So we'll see. John says Eastern martial arts. I got mine through my old dojo, along with my staff, which has been long gone, and my Dragon Sai. Okay. No worries. Got a message that Steve had to leave us for work. Have a good night, Steve. We're because, like I said, I'm looking for things that work. Now, I do have a long time ago some striker training, so it might be fun to play with something like that. I may just manufacture something really light and cheesy that I could just work through the motions to see if I like before I invest something. We'll see on that one. If that's something you guys would be interested in seeing me try to work through, I will. Because a lot, guys, I'm supposed to serve you. Okay, I have an agenda. I really do, and it's a very simple agenda. My primary agenda is to try to build everyone who watches this up a notch, either to help them bare minimum feel better on a Friday night, or learn something new, improve your game, beat that guy you're trying to beat in the group you are in, learn a new skill, empowerment, elevation, that routine. Hi, Jonathan. Good to see you, Little John. Which is funny because Big John, who looks more like Little John's son, is being called Little John, and that's 404 Nick not found. Pardon me while I blue screen of death. But checking my messages. That's interesting. Anyway. We got to find the right gear. We got to find the right things that work for each and every one of us. I will tell you, there are some downsides to current events. For a long time, I recommended riot shields as trading tools. They're great shields. Right now, I wouldn't really be caught dead. Well, I won't say caught dead, but I really wouldn't want to be running around with the riot shield. Even in training, lest people misunderstand your purpose. And I am very much not a political entity. I work hard not to be on this channel, other than a few subjects that are core to this channel, like knife rights. I really do believe that people can negotiate, discuss, have different opinions, whether I agree with it or not, on firearms. You can discuss that all you want, not necessarily here, but discuss it. Knife rights, I don't. I mean, everybody should have the world's most useful, easy to handle tool. I don't go anywhere without one because I cut things. You see what those lines are? Anybody want to guess what those lines are? See, there are these things that some of us write and draw with called pencils. I can sharpen mine. I can open boxes. In fact, as somebody with hand limitations, having a knife that locks in is vital to my functionality because I can't get my fingers in to pry open boxes anymore. I can't always feel what I'm doing to do so. So it only makes sense that I carry a viable, logical little tool that locks in positively, does not in any way, shape, or form conflict with my braces, doesn't fall out of my pocket, and that I can have easy, immediate access to. And yes, I have had wearing this is, in my opinion, a tactical deterrent. I would never want to hurt anyone, but it's enough to make anybody who has experience as a criminal think about hitting the other guy. And the fact that I walk with a cane or a crutch, I need any benefit of intimidation my short, fat, goofy walking self can generate. John says, my purpose is my defense and my friend's defense when I'm behind one. So, yeah, exactly. And that's the reality. You have to look at why you're doing this. And it's good. It's important, okay? You need to understand the realities, the legalities. This is not necessarily playing, lightsabers in the backyard. Although it can include playing lightsabers in the backyard. Heck, I wouldn't mind playing lightsabers in the backyard sometimes. But you have to keep yourself aware about the reality and the appearance of what you're doing. I learned that the hard way a long time ago, and I try not to make the same mistake twice if I can avoid it. Let me see. I just got a message. What the heck? No, I will not answer that. Moving on. Okay. Off topic rampancy, but I got a question. Who is my favorite Jedi? That's a complex question. I would say, as a default, Obi-Wan, but he was a Jedi before he turned Sith, so I'm still golden there. Plo Koon is a close next in line on that because he's just cool. And Kanan will never get the love he deserves. But he got to meet Tom Baker in Star Wars, so I'm just going to give him a pass too. All right. Qui-Gon. Excellent. Qui-Gon is an excellent selection. I like his fighting style. I do think, if we're going to go geek lore for a second, he had enough foresight to be dangerous, and what the Jedi were doing to members who had foresight at that time is very dodgy. Oh, Yoda's great, but from a fighting standpoint I'm sorry, I didn't explain that. I would say from the question, Yoda, I used to love Yoda. Yes, I am short and small, and I will fight you from my knees. Feel the force. But I watched enough of it, and I had some problems with Yoda's arrogance through a lot. Not saying it wasn't well earned, but he blinded himself with his arrogance, and he kind of paid the price for it, didn't he? But there is another Jedi. He appears in Clone Wars. I cannot remember his name to save me, but he teaches Ahsoka Tano the value in slowing down and taking things methodically. But I didn't get to see him fight, so we gotta keep that in mind. I would have loved an AU where we got to see a lot more time with Leia behind a lightsaber. That would have. I really believe if Obi-Wan would have trained Leia instead of Luke, it would have been Star War, and she would have frickin' ended it. Probably before Alderaan went down. Definitely after. But that's neither here nor there. Let's go on to the next question. Okay. The best knife. Hard question because it's a very complicated question. My knee-jerk answer is the knife that will do the job you want it to. That you will carry, okay? Because I don't care how nice a knife is, okay? Let's give you an example. Hold on. This is my little mini K-bar. I love this knife. It has a history. I believe it saved my life. This is a great knife. Now, is it the best knife? No. Why? I don't carry it. Partially because I have a sheath that isn't designed for it, partially because it's a little imbalanced, and it's temporally overkill. Now, if I go in the woods, a combo like this is very likely to happen. But it's not the best knife. Yes, that is an Air Force survival knife. You've seen it many times. And you also notice that familiar streaking. That familiar streaking is from sharpening many pencils. These are tools. Yes, they have weapon applications, but these are tools. They also have trainers, but the trainers that I find, let me see if I can find where it went. It's not it. Oh, here it is. The trainers are for the full size. This is a cold steel. It's a slight knockoff, but it's close enough. Round body, very similar grip, but it's a little long. Nice knife. And this is something you want to see, guys. Now, this is why I'm mad at CRKT, and I'm going to be writing a letter to them. Train with what you use. Use what you train with. You want that synergy. I've found that the bigger grip knives aren't real comfortable because I have short fingers. I have for years mistakenly been saying I have small hands. Now, see, a K-bar is a bug-out knife. A K-bar is the kind of knife you want to have if you're going out in the bush. If you're batoning things. It is a rugged, heavy, quality knife, and I will never bash one. But is it my EDC knife? And the answer is no. This is my EDC knife, which some people laugh at me hysterically about. Some people get it. It does just what I need to do. I'm also not. I can obviously use a knife in self-defense. I usually don't gear to because it's just, especially a small knife. You can defend yourself with a small knife, but you're very likely to kill somebody if you know what you're doing. Believe it or not, I find I could use something like this, okay? I could use something like this far more defensively than I could use something like this. And I know that seems illogical, but bear with me. I have a lot more opportunities to do arm cuts with something like this. I could do a face cut with something like this, targeted because I have enough reach. Just like a rifle gives you more accuracy, I have more time to see where the tip's going. I can reverse guard and use it very, very differently. If I'm using this, I have to get close. It has to get ugly, and either they won't see it because this is either deployed very covertly. This is a very easy to be covert knife. Or the only targeted places are going to very likely be fatal because there's just almost no way to not be. And I would always try to use this defensively, and I would intend to use this defensively, but unfortunately defensive cuts with a little knife like this might not deter enough to stop a really motivated or a intoxicated individual. So it's a really challenging. It's one you have to think about. Oh God. Okay. If you see me freeze up at any point and look annoyed, that's because I get a little thing that says my connection is unstable. And at that point, I can't tell if I'm still broadcasting, if I'm frozen or live, and I don't want to miss what I'm talking about. But while we're having this conversation, I would love to know what kind of trainers you guys are interested in, what kind of gear you want reviewed, what kind of, I mean, we're looking at some interesting things. We have an Ahsoka series coming up. We can definitely review and discuss the combat in that comes up. It'll be interesting because we're going to have the Book of Fett, or Book of Boba Fett, so we can compare that. There's always some military things, and I'm totally comfortable to sit, especially if you tell me ahead of time, like, watch this movie, tell me what you think, and we can go over what we think on the subject matter. Temporal, brachial carotid, femoral cuts work with the K-bar, and the palm knife will put you in the danger zone. Exactly. Well, all of them's fatal if done right. But yeah. So that's why I'm a little hesitant. Now, the other thing you have to realize, ironically, is my hand is half the length, half the width of John Miner's hand. The gentleman I'm talking to right now, his hand is that wide. So, proportionately for grip and angle, believe it or not, this knife, which if you look is a bit better than twice the blade length, is almost exactly to scale. Do you realize what I am saying here? It's a little bigger for Steve, but scaling your gear to fit you, this, believe it or not, is a light neck knife length for John Miner. I have a knife that was given to me for Christmas by Stef Mari that I will be happy to show. It's out of the room right now, though. And I still have to do the full review. I've been catching up on some of my contract work for Luke Stone, and that's put me behind on the things. But I will tell you, it came in this box. I love doing that. I love reviewing knives, and I love reviewing inexpensive things that other people might actually get a chance to use, because that's what I want. I want the gear to be approachable, accessible, something that can help you guys. Now, as spring comes, I will talk about getting your list field up to snuff. We may do some variant videos where I'm outdoors and I'm telling you how I'm going to change my list field personally. John says the Air Force knife resides on a chest strap of my bug out gear. This is a neck knife. So yes, well, technically, if you're wearing this on a backpack strap, that functionally is very similar to a neck knife in that it's a quick access. It's just encoded to your gear. There are several Molly knives that work that way too. I do like the benefits of a tiny knife or a small knife like this, aside from legality, because when I wear it is not concealed. So this is open carried and bright colored, so there's no deception that it's there. It's a fixed blade, less than 3 inches long. In a lot of places, it's as I said, fixed. It's not an assist open. And that's where we run into things where I have problems. Because there are places where I've had fixed blade assist open folding knives that were this long, and I couldn't carry it, but I could carry this legally just fine. That seems stupid to me. So I get funny on the subject of knife laws because I really do find them unconstitutional. But I will discuss it. Now, again, and I will, yes, okay, hold on. Yes, okay. I want to go back over something because somebody asked about, well, aren't you worried about the legality? I would not make a trainer of something that I can, for a reachable price, buy a trainer of. Now, if it's something that I've looked on the market, there isn't a trainer of, then by all means make it. Especially with a knife, you can use most knives you could fit on a regular cutting board. Okay? You don't even have to order a fancy one. Trace it, cut it out. You can cut it out with a dollar store plunge saw and just use sandpaper or a file or whatever and clean it up and use that to practice with. It's okay. It's not that you got there. You're okay. I'm not going to name names because it's requested not to. Take a knife. This is a knife. This is a rather famous knife. This is a Gilhibben thrower. I want to say it's a medium thrower. It might be a large. It is a GHO 9478 stainless steel, handcrafted in China, Gilhibben knife. Beautifully balanced thrower. If I wanted to make a fighting trainer for this, I would simply lay this down on a piece of cutting board, trace it, cut it out. You could go so far as to string wrap it to give a similar grip. That's up to you. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's better, and it would be an equivalent trainer. And that's what we're looking for, equivalency. Do not get intimidated with perfection. I know so many people who have this fixation on it must be exact, perfect, millimeter by millimeter, and I don't have the ability to do so. That's a cop-out. And I'm sorry. Love you. You're a good person. I'm kind of being hard on you right now. But you can't blow up something so big in your mind that you don't do it. If you're doing that, it may be an excuse. Now, if you viably can't do that, well, then by all means, contact me after, or contact somebody else, and they'll help you. Now, you may have to pay for that service, but God bless capitalism, People should get something out of helping other people. I'm nuts, and I'll admit it in that I do a lot of stuff for free, but what I get out of it is knowing the world's a little bit better. And then, occasionally I have wonderful people like Cindy Kemp, who's still on, I think, and the rest of my patrons who give money so I can keep doing this, so that I can afford to save up some money and buy trainers to review them or use them, hopefully. And yeah, I can save up the money to get better gear for me to adapt to what I need to do. And I've looked and I've talked to them, and that's what you guys want. Oh, Cindy Cap is making a shoulder dragon. Cindy, is your Etsy shop linked on your webpage, www.CKOEPP.com? Or does it have to go somewhere else? And if it's not linked there, why not? She's the one, because, yes, she's the one who made me my manatee, and I loves it. It's great comfort to me, and I like having him around. He comes and sits and helps me do my videos because Lydia's slacking off again. Anyway, I've got Yetis outside. I've got Lydia slacking off. I don't know how to keep things going, but we're going to make it work. Oh, but I'm thinking of making my store on a what? Please please, 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 Cindy, you did some stuff through. I wasn't sure how you did it through the St. Nick's Creators Christmas Mall, which is still a viable group. I want people to shop small, and I'm going to be updating that in the near future as Valentine's Day approaches. Just to remind you guys that wonderful. John says Kep will have a sword hat. Will work for her when Swakhammer Metals is back in production. Thanks. See that right there. Like, here's the thing. If nothing else happens Friday to me, and it's actually been a pretty good Friday. I didn't do a lot. I did research for this. I worked a bit on the hybrid sling till my hands hurt. That happened. John says hammer and anvil is screaming to be used. Forge will be coming this year. John, you're not the only one. I have in my garage, although a couple of people moved parts, so I have to find all the parts, a small propane forge that was donated to me by Joe Bachman of The Burning is Love. He donated a small forge so that I can do knife making because I kind of have a bucket list of creative items, and I want to get my hands in shape to do that. If I can't run a hammer, I may have to make my wife run a hammer or an assistant or get a power hammer. Although I've seen a really neat design for a stomp hammer where it's levers and it's a sledgehammer that you step down on a bar to kind of treadle power, essentially. It's fascinating. I'd love to make something like that. But those who know me long term know I have this kind of fixation on simple mechanical tools that don't require electricity and aren't loud because the noise drives me nuts anyway. But we'll just have to see what the flippers will do. The mighty manatee man's flippers sometimes don't let him do much other than go like this. I need salad. It sounds like you could do a piano key kind of arrangement to make a hammer go. Yes, I've actually seen one where there's a reset spring to lift the hammer back up, and it looks sort of like an engine puller frame that suspends a hinged sledgehammer, and it's rigged to around your anvil and stump to a bar so that you can just step down and get the hammer to kind of go. And the spring resets it so that you're always under pressure. The propane forges have come way down, especially for like a knife building length one. Some of the manifolds are getting cheaper, and if you want to because it's John, you just build a fire brick one and you can go to town. I have absolute faith in John's ability to manufacture something like that. And yeah, an auto hammer of some sort would be great. Tank. But you're talking to a guy who's forged small knives out of nails and a campfire. That used to be one of my Friday activities, was just get a little bit of whatever crowd metal I could, a can of corn oil, a little tiny forge, a little tiny anvil, sit down like a Pooh Bear, be like, get it hot with a little crank billows, little tiny barbecue one, and just tink, 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 out a knife. I have a goofy nail knife I could probably go get. That's, well, I don't want to push all the stuff aside. I have to redo the office. But yeah, so that's because I want to make a Dussock. And not just stock reduction. I want to make a really nice forged Dussock one of these days. Simply because I think Dussocks are that cool. But that's like that, and that might be the summer. If I can work my butt off and I can make it go, it'll be the summer. And if I can't, well, I've tried, and I'd rather fail and try than not try and just, oh, woe is me. I get depression. I just don't get inaction. It's not what I am. But that's not what you need to be either. So what this means is there's gonna be some really neat live steel coming out of John. I'm still gonna bug him to work on trainers. There are a couple companies I know who really should consider looking into like a laser cutter or something. I may be looking into a small laser cutter, but it won't be necessarily for what we do. It would be for my game design side of things, because I have a 3D printer I have to assemble somehow, and I want to get a laser cutter so I can kind of mass produce. Damascus would be the one. John says, "Oh yeah, Damascus is sort of the blade maker's passion." I can't think of anybody who does blade work and doesn't love Damascus in one form or another, and it lets you. And it can be so beautiful. Pardon me, folks. Do I have any more of my caffeinated beverage? Oh, I do. How delightful. One second. If I had a production value, I would have a little bar that said caffeine energy reloading. Boop. But like until the weather changes, as I readapt to what's going on and deal with some health issues, I'm doing more writing and I'm doing some more work. But I'm going. What is Damascus in the knife and sword, the sword and knife world? Well, that's a great question, Cindy. And it's one of those, I love when somebody catches us using a term without explaining it. Damascus is a way of folding or twisting steel to squeeze out the impurities. And it purifies it to an extent. But it also gives it a very distinct set of patterns. And it can give a swirl pattern. Remind me next week when I do videos, I have a couple Damascus knives. One was given to me by a wonderful little company called Baraz. Like watermelon taffeta. Kinda. It could be waves. I've seen almost bubble-looking patterns, because what they did is they squashed down and combined ball bearings. There's some the way after a while the way you fold gives you different patterns, and it's really, really cool. Look up Cindy, because you're going to enjoy it. Now, when you're done with this show, guys, as much as I love recommending, let me get through my show first. Go look up Forged in Fire on YouTube. You'll be able to find it if you have whatever streaming services actually have it. Yes, metal origami is a neat way of looking at it. It strengthens the steel. Now you have to be careful with that, because there's the mythos around katanas, and the katana is made so sharp because it's been folded many times. The problem is that it makes a crystalline structure that is very sharp, but you trade off flexibility, so you get a very brittle sharpness compared to other steels. And that's sort of like the hyper evolution of something like Damascus. But that's why if you look at the fighting style of a katana, it is not as much chop. When it's done properly, there's a break and slash motion, which John Meyer can demonstrate better than I can, especially now, because it involves wrist flexibility. But, that's not what I'm looking for. My phone decided to get me on to Wish, which nobody wants to see. But, yeah, I could find some wonderful examples, and I have a couple Damascus knives I need to check on. They usually need a little more tender, loving care. They're more prone to rust. But it is a beautiful thing, and at its higher end, it's nothing short of a work of art. And I really show this one. Give me a second. Hey, now I'm getting my notices. As soon as it loads, I'm getting a picture and it. Okay, cool. There we are. Now, let me see if I can get this to. I'm going to zoom on just the blade. So when a blade looks like this, okay, that's not etched in. That is from the waves of the that is from the waves of the okay. We're using my high-tech picture-in-picture technology of holding up my incredibly dirty phone up to the screen, but that's okay. We're working on things. Like I said, I'll show you some other live action examples. Probably next week. Okay, you've seen those. Cool. But yes, folks, new viewers, especially anyone catching this in review, if you hear us use a term, a word you don't know, there are no stupid answers. There are no stupid answers. There are no stupid questions. You might get a stupid answer out of me. But especially as long as it's sincere, I will go bend over backwards to try to help solve any questions, quandaries you have. And yes, John, that is a beautiful knife. It that's my new Christmas present. Oh, delightful! I'm glad you got a new Christmas present. Excuse me, but wow, today this has been a good show. We've got a lot of. I live for this commentary and back and forth. And it's really hard because I know my show conflicts with some others, but I've been doing this for a while. I'm going to keep doing it until such time as I can't, and then we'll figure something else out. Because frankly, if I can't do this live show because I'm doing live teaching, I'll move this show to another time. But wow, what is? Okay, no, I'm not answering that. That is too far off topic right now, guys. Let's not be that cheeky. Got another question. I'll be honest, I really do enjoy working with females. I prefer women or folks who identify. And it's not that I dislike guys, because working with guys is great. It's just I find there's different kinds of drama going in. And I hate drama, but it's much easier for me to build somebody's ego up than have to kind of conflict and tear them down. So sometimes it can be challenging. That being said, when somebody gets straight, whatever, and they figure things out, it is a beautiful, wonderful world. And I love working with everybody. The only thing I won't tolerate is a bully. I will not have a bully in my circle. John Miner says, anyone interested in archery, I can and am willing to teach that too. Yeah, John's good at archery. He's good at throwing. He's good at a lot of different styles, especially if you're a larger person. Because sometimes it's hard for big guys to find somebody their size. People think in terms of, and just like what I was saying to my friend here, just like when it's hard for small people to find somebody to train with, it could be equally challenging for somebody built like John, because many times, especially for something like fencing, a very large person is intimidating to the swordmaster. And it's worse for why you're doing what you're doing, okay? If you are going out to help somebody be better, and that's what I do, and I have to constantly reaffirm myself that even if I can't make my hands go, if the flippers fail, I can still talk and educate and elevate people. And I'm going to keep doing that till I can't anymore. But a lot of instructors in certain groups, you'll find it in any organization that has a LARP aspect. You'll find in where there's going to be competition between students and masters, students and instructors, students and students. And sometimes they don't want to deal with somebody they think can beat them. They're maybe afraid for their own safety. They may be afraid of looking foolish. Now, as I have proven, my own safety has not been my wisest concern, and I do pay the price for that. As for looking foolish, I look like this. I might as well, enjoy looking foolish from time to time. People take themselves entirely too serious, and they're afraid of looking foolish, and I think that's a little overrated. Prestige. If prestige is something based on appearance, maybe it's not as necessary. Cindy Kemp says it's been eons since I did archery. Much fun. I had a standard recurve and a very light compound. You know what? I have I actually still have my kids' compound from when I was little, and it's maybe at this point a 12-pound draw, probably less. I mean, heinously light little bow that I keep around for anybody. Now, that's the downside of where I moved is I have enough yard to do archery in, but I live in one of the windiest parts of Indiana, and it's actually one of the windiest parts of the country. So I'm not real comfortable doing the projectile stuff I used to do. It's a real downside, but we'll make other arrangements because it's fun. And Cindy mentions light draw. Do not ever, guys, let machismo and those who wield it stop you from enjoying what you do. Okay? If you prefer to fight with a foil because that's what you can handle, fight with a foil. Or you prefer it. You just like it better. You don't have to fight heavy with a rattan club. Nothing wrong. Again, if you'd rather fight with a rattan club, nothing wrong with that. If you're going out to a firing range and you just want to use 22 because the recoil doesn't hurt, groovy. I will never, and draw weight's another one of those. I will never, ever hold what you feel safe or comfortable against you. Some people might, and you know what? They suck. John says, I have loaners and can teach how to make equipment. I have everything from compounds, recurves, Russian composite, English longbow, some light, some heavy. Yeah, John is part of where I got the school of have all the toys, load them when you find people. It's a good thing to have. It's a good thing to be. That's why you'll notice when I'm going to need probably a set of gauntlets that go over my hands because my wrists don't quite wrist. And they have to go over my braces. I know John can make such things. And given the horrendous issue I've had, it's like, why am I wearing these kind of crummy braces right now? They're literally the only ones that fit my hands. And I'm shopping around still, but we're going to make it work. Expertise, when hard earned, is highly valued. And there are matters to which I will turn to John for his expertise. There are matters I will turn to Steve for his expertise. Trelena has certain skills that are in the periphery, but I will definitely turn to her. Knowing who knows what and knowing that you can go to them is what the guild is about. Sword Sage doesn't get out much. But I know if I had a question about a gin, I could shoot a message to my buddy Sword Sage, and he would be like, bunk, here's the answer. If it's a really good question, he'd make a video, something like I'm doing right now, but with his own unique style and flair. That's what we're about. We build each other, we build ourselves. Everybody learns, everybody gets better, and everybody has a good time. Because there's value, okay? Value. Oh, I have to stop clapping. At the end of the day, that gets a little fun. Okay. But there is value in what you know. Now, there's a saying, if you're good at something, don't do it for free. Oh, God. Wow. John Miner just said expertise left with Jesse, but working with him, I got through osmosis. Okay, John. You just sucker punched me. You just sucker punched me hard. There will never be a day that mentioning Jesse does a sucker punch me. But I want you to stop and read that freaking sentence, okay? And I know I'm talking to the world right now, but right now I'm talking to you, John. What would you give right now for the Jesse Tibbetts Guide to Armoring? Like, seriously. How much would you just about kill to get your paws on the Jesse Tibbetts Guide for Armoring? I know I would throw a vast sum of my meager resources at it. Because what he did, he was uniquely brilliant. He was mad. And I mean that literally, folks. He was a lunatic. I love that man. But he was something else. And when he passed so cruelly and so wrongly, it wounded everyone who knew him. And the fact that his gear went places I don't feel it should have, not my place, and that his knowledge, his perspective, tragically went across the Rainbow Bridge. And I say that because I know him. Went to another place. Is an absence of light in this world I feel to this day. So, John, how do you think everyone who's known you, who's heard stories about you, is going to feel when you pass? And yeah, there'll be the mourning period. We will be devastated. But then will come the John Mayer. So that book you started, you need to finish. Don't hesitate, okay? There are matters I take deadly serious. And the preservation of knowledge and ideas, in my opinion, is far more important than any middling in genetics. As a species, as an intellectual species, we are largely beyond that. I love my son. If he proceeds to keep the family line going, if that is the way the world works and he's capable of doing it, it will bring me a certain comfort I can't quite describe. But I am not a red beard with brown hair and blue eyes and this pinkish, whitish, peachish skin. I'm not one leg shorter than the other and a bit more wit than probably fits in my mind. I'm the ideas within. I'm the perspective. I'm the soul. And while the soul will go on, the knowledge of it can stay. We have a sorcery where we make little marks on paper with graphite, or we type, guys. And this is to everybody. This is all of you out there who know what you're doing. And that is a form of immortality, and it is a service to literally all the generations that come after us. Everybody yet to be born who could possibly benefit from what you know, what's in these heads of ours, You need to preserve it because that part is bigger than you. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than Cindy. Cindy kept is cranking out stories. Okay. She's a prolific author. And stories are important. They have value. Knowledge is important. It has value. Ideas are important. That's why I record all this stuff. I do not have an ego about my value. Okay. This thing that stands before you, speaking and chatting and stuttering his way through life, is a skeleton wrapped in meat, powered by a brain squid. But what you got, all of you, what all of you are carrying, is perspective in a time of history. Like it or not, this period is something the historians are going to look at. The periods before, things that matter. Your perspective matters. And the loss of that perspective diminishes the whole. So please, write your stories. Write your guides to what you do. Draw, create, hammer out swords. But keep the knowledge and the ideas and the philosophy flowing so that the future can look at it and go, hey, this is a good idea. This goofy volume of writing and stick figures and rambling on the occasional typo took 15 years. It's not that thick. I am not a great man. I am not a Shakespeare. I am not a Gigante. I am not someone historically consequential. I am just this little guy who has this idea that we can be better. And maybe one of you fine folks will be one of those hingepin individuals that changes the course. And if you can realize that you are, and you do it, then it's possible for the meaning of a lifetime to be made valuable in a second. The right push, the right nudge, the right change, the right light in the darkness at the right time can remake the world. And I may never see it, and you may never see it. Our great whatever may never see it, but the chain of events, while incalculable, is still present. It changes the frequency of things. And I know I'm getting philosophical, but I tend to, and you don't seem to mind. But yeah, there was a lot of joy, a lot of loss, and a lot of joy. John wrote up a story about not using tellurium for gauntlets, but it's bigger than that. We're bigger than that. Your ideas are bigger than that. And like right now, I got 3 people watching, 4 likes. Yay. I don't know how many have come in. And I thank every one of you. I thank every one of you for coming into my life, letting me into yours, and hoping that maybe together we can learn in knowledge, learn in thought, build up and build each other up and build others up. And it starts this chain reaction, this gestalt of awesomeness, this rhythm that builds the groove of grooviness, And I know I sound crazy. And I sound far-fetched. And I sound silly. And we need that. Serious isn't working. Self-aggrandizement isn't working. But realizing like, hey, eventually the right domino could get hit and things could get better. So I'm going to keep doing this, and I thank you all. It's the bottom of my heart, I thank all of you, John and Cindy and Steve and Jess and Trey and a beloved wife, all you guys, for working to build that up. That passion, that hope. For Brian K. Morris, there's a guy who's a walking, talking force of elevation. You know, our spheres crossed, and my life is much better for it. I hope I've done some good for his, or at least the people in his circle, you know? But you got to try. John says only 2 pair were made, his and mine. My pair may be the only ones left. I don't know where his went. John, I have absolute faith that his are being worn by either somebody who they fit real well as a fairly high-ranking individual or as somebody starting out. Because for what I know where they went, where most of the gear went, it got distributed. And it may not have been to somebody we know, may not have been to somebody we think we know, but it is to somebody, guys, who's using them, or they will after 2020. I don't believe they were discarded. And I think that's important. I think Jess would get a kick out of knowing that his gear is out there somewhere helping somebody keep fighting. I think that's an honor to him and his name. So, wow, what a show, folks. I'm going to take a second because I got kind of a little bit of brother love going there. I'm out of caffeine. My hands are starting to not work real well. So I want to stop. Like I said, I want to thank all my guests. And by guests, I mean the lovely people who stopped in chat, Cindy Kep, Steve Clausen, and John Miner. Just about every week you guys come out and you chat with me and you make the show a lot better than me just prattling in the dark. I want to thank all my viewers. You guys are amazing. Feel free to comment on these, even after. It takes me a while, but sometimes I get comments months after. Cindy Kep says, thanks for hosting this adventure. She always does. John says mine will be passed to the next giant with real mitts. You might have to talk to your son about that. But seriously, guys, the Historical Fencing Guild is brought to you by viewers like you who've joined my Patreon. The link is in the description. And, you know, people who buy the Simple Sword, people who buy the Big Stompy Robots game, that money goes into keeping the lights on. And I'm hoping, as my health allows, to do something about my backdrop and maybe get something like production value. We'll see how things go. But message me. You can follow us on the Historical Fencing Guild public group on Facebook. Hop on, ask questions. I only ask that it's in English because, frankly, I get a lot of foreign bots that aren't really people who hop on there, who try to hop on there. And if I can help you, let me advise you. Let me be. If I can't, a lot of these people can. That's what the guild's about. It's not meant to be the Nick School of Awesome. It's meant to be people of different disciplines coming together to help build each other up. And well, guys, just stay safe. Okay. I want to talk right now. Politically, things are scary. And wherever you stand on it, things are scary. And a lot of it is beyond our control, but it's easy to be mad. Let's not take it out on each other. Even the people who may deserve it. Because right now, patience. I'm not saying one side or the other because that's not what this is. But the people who literally have nothing to do with anything, there's no point being mad at. You know, whatever relatives saying, whatever. Peace. A really smart guy said, "Peace be with you." And that's what I hope for you guys. But keep training. The spring is coming. The summer is coming. And the escape from the fear and burden of everything we endured last year that's carrying into this year, that wave will break. The fog will part. The sun will come out again, even in Nottingham. So until then, we just take care of each other. We be safe, be smart, be kind. If you get nothing else from me, be kind to yourself, be kind to others. And as always, because guys, I really need you on this one, support your local sword master.